So we've got a bit of a story today. This is kind of confusing. I'm not sure where to start with it. I guess the best place to start is, okay, so behind me, you can see Shadow right there. That's the black rat snake. Shadow used to be in a sort of like custom built enclosure in a shelf, but I moved him to just a 20-gallon long, which is what he was in like a few months ago or something, before I put it in that shelf thing. I don't think I mentioned why I switched it. Actually, I'm not sure if you ever saw me switch it because I haven't done a reptile room yet. But basically I had that custom shelf, but Shadow ended up getting out of it because it was not a very stable shelf thing. I didn't mention this before, mostly because a lot of parents won't let their kids get snakes because they have the fear of them escaping the enclosures. And although that can happen, and it has happened with me more than once, it is going to be rare and it can be avoided. But the problem here is I was using a sort of custom built in an old rickety shelf thingy that didn't really work. So there's some easy gaps for him to get out of that I didn't actually realize because they formed, I guess, over time from the plastic on the front warping. So like I guess most of you would, I sort of panicked when he wasn't in the enclosure, and immediately, since I have had Shadow escape before, like a year ago, before I had clamps on the enclosures, I just checked every single corner of the room, every single inch of the room, and then if I couldn't find it in the room that he lives in, I checked every single other room in the house. And I went through that, I did it, I spent hours doing it that day, and he was nowhere, so I was kind of scared that, let's see, let me turn you. Okay, so over here by the bed, see that little door? The door in there leads to a little storage room, but in the back of that room, there's some gaps, and they're perfectly snake-shaped gaps that they could very easily fit in. So I was really scared that Shadow actually got into those gaps, and those gaps lead down the wall of our house, and I wasn't sure where they actually go, where he could get if he got in there. And I'm really bright right now, that's better I think. So over the next few days I kept checking the other spots, but then I had to investigate and figure out where that little gap goes to. So I went under the house, there's a door under the house, it's just more storage, it's basically outside. I think there's more gaps that lead to the actual outside, so I was afraid he could have gotten out to the real world. But we opened the storage room door under the house down there, looked around the door, and there were two black rat snakes sitting right there. I didn't know if one of them were Shadow or not. Like I said, snakes can probably get into that storage room just from the outside. But I grabbed both of them, and it turns out one of them was Shadow. So I was really relieved. It was multiple days without seeing him. I was pretty certain that I had permanently lost Shadow, but I had him back, so I put him back up into an enclosure and everything, and that was pretty much it. So from there, pretty much all was well. Shadow seemed fine, he started eating again and all that, even though he was gone for a few days. But I realized with that other snake, it's possible that they were mating, so I thought it was kind of cool that maybe Shadow helped get some offspring out in there with whatever female was with him at the time. But now, fast forward to now, which is a good few weeks later, I was actually gone for the past 7 days, and I come back to find something in his enclosure. These are snake eggs. So it turns out I was right. Shadow did actually mate with that snake under my house, but I got a little part wrong. Turns out Shadow's the female. So I've been saying he up into this video because I've always said he. I never really fully checked. I did a quick little tail check and I was like, yeah, it's probably a male. Doesn't really matter because I wasn't gonna breed him or anything. But now I'm gonna have to try and start saying her, so that's gonna be difficult. So now what I'm gonna be doing is just trying to set up an incubation thing for these eggs that I suddenly have. I've only known about these for a couple hours. I had to do as much research as I could. It's sort of hard because not that many people breed black rat snakes, so it's hard to find information. But luckily I've watched a lot of other breeders and I just have some general information about it overall. Now I can't guarantee, don't get too excited, I can't guarantee how many of these are gonna hatch, if any, because I was trying to look for veins, which if you don't know, you can shine a flashlight onto eggs, and then you can look to see if there's actual veins inside the egg, and you can see if there's an embryo or not based on that. It's really hard to tell. I'm not 100% sure what I'm looking for, but I think at least a couple do. There's only 4 eggs. One is super short compared to the others, so I'm not even sure if that one has a chance. And then there's one that I'm pretty sure I see them in, and then another that I don't think I do, and then another that I might. So there might be 2 to 3 that do indeed have baby rat snakes in them, but I'm not sure. But in addition to that, since I was just gone for 7 days, of course, had to lay them right when I wasn't gone. I'm not sure if it's weird to say she, if she, Shadow, the female, black rat snake. Gonna try and work on that. Had them the first night I was gone, or last night, or any time in between. So luckily the temperatures are just about right in the enclosure and in the room in general. Humidity, not so much, because eggs are gonna need a higher humidity. But I have some stuff here. I have a styrofoam container, a styrofoam top, a little grate to try and do this, and some other stuff to try and incubate these eggs. We'll see how it goes. I went ahead and did the little Sharpie mark on top of each of the eggs because you don't want your eggs to roll over since the embryo can actually drown if they do roll. 2 of them are stuck together. The other 2, I think 1 was stuck together, it kind of popped off, and the 4th one wasn't even stuck, which I think that was the short one. So that's probably a dud. I guess it's called a slug, not a dud. But I'll go ahead and put them all in here anyway. So to get the humidity up, I'm gonna use some moss. I think this is sphagnum moss. I have a container right here. I'm just gonna fill this with water. Whoa, okay, just spilled water everywhere. So I'm gonna take some of this moss. I'm not sure how much I'll actually need. I don't know, that might be enough. We'll see. But while we do that, I can go ahead and actually show you Shadow. So it's weird, when I came back, Shadow was acting a lot more defensive, which is why I'm using a snake hook. I usually don't have to use a snake hook with any of my snakes, of course. Okay, so here we go. This is Shadow as usual, but, is that musk? Yep, that's musk. She's still a bit more on edge than usual. She's come down a ton over the past year. However, I might be able to get you a nice little view. This is now quite the thin snake. So I knew Shadow was well fed, but she was getting extra chubby. Turns out those were indeed the eggs, and now she is really thin, so I'm gonna have to fatten her up a bit more again. You can really see that, I don't know if you can actually see it, but I can definitely feel a crevice in here, right where the eggs were. But the thing is, they really aren't that large compared to some snake eggs. And it's not like I was looking for any lumps or anything whenever I would just feed Shadow and whatever. So it was certainly a surprise. But like I said, I have this styrofoam cooler here, which is what I see a lot of people using. I know you can buy incubation thingies, but one, I don't really have anywhere to get it in stores, and I wouldn't want to wait too long since the eggs are already here and I had no idea they were coming. But in addition to that, they're just pretty expensive. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a layer of moss on the bottom, somehow secure this thing into place, put it above the moss, put some holes in the styrofoam cooler, and then I'll go ahead and check the temperatures and stuff and see if I need to add an actual heat source to this. Yes, it's pretty damp. And I guess I should keep this damp, but it shouldn't be too difficult since this is a cooler. Now it's hard, like I said. I'm kind of going off of corn snake incubation because there's not much I can find on black rat snakes. So make sure you leave any information you can for me in the comments to help me out in case these do work out. But it looks like the incubation is about 60 to 70 days if I'm remembering what I read right. And then temperatures just around 80 degrees. Luckily, that's just about what the room is. And then humidity about 75 to 90%. The room is definitely not 75 to 90. So that's what the moss and cooler is mostly for, in addition to keeping the other stuff stable. Also keep in mind, as I put this stuff in, this is not a tutorial in any way. I know a lot of the stuff that I do is how-tos and everything, but I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, I've got my moss in here. Next, I have this little grate. Now the problem is, the grate doesn't fit unless it's up really high. I'm gonna put holes in it anyway, so what I might do is cut some little slits in the side so that I can actually fit that grate into place a bit lower. I don't know how many of you like the sound of styrofoam, but you're gonna love this segment. Now what I'm going to do is grab some tape and just tape this up to the side. This is now stable. Now I've got this side right here. I'm gonna try and just tape this over so that the humidity doesn't escape. You know what I just realized? So I'm not sure if these eggs are gonna fit. They might be too small. Oh, well, I can do that. So I'm not actually gonna put the eggs in yet since I'm gonna be shaking this thing up quite a bit as I finish everything. I'm gonna go ahead and put this probe in. I'm going to cut a little hole for it right in the back, I guess. I can't get it large enough. we've got our probe in place. Okay, we've got the moss, the little grate for the eggs that they hopefully won't fall through. Now I can put the top on. I believe there needs to be more airflow, so I'm gonna put some holes in the top. I know so many snake breeders, if there's any watching this, are just cringing at everything I'm doing. I'm sure I'm making so many mistakes. So give me your tips, because I'm gonna need them. We've got some holes in here. That should be good. Hopefully that doesn't bother you that there's only 3. I don't know why I'm not doing the 4th. I don't want there to be too much airflow. So this is quite the weird project. Didn't know I'd ever be doing this, anytime soon at least. But here we go. I guess I just made an incubator, hopefully. This is still adjusting. I'm just gonna keep playing around with this. So make sure you leave me some tips on what I can do. Let me know what you think about this. I feel like there's a lot of coincidences going on with how the snake perfectly escaped the enclosure, got right into the one area that leads to more snakes under the house, mated with those snakes within a couple days, came back up here after I found her, laid the eggs, and here we are. So I have no idea how this is gonna go. I'll make sure to update you. So make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss those. But wish me luck with this. Don't get your hopes up too much. No idea how this will work out, especially since it's hard to tell which eggs even have anything in them. But we'll see. So I'm Alex, and thanks for watching.